And so it is. It's kind of yummy, isn't it? I think it's yummy anytime we're able to get ourselves still enough, quiet enough to be able to just be. Isn't it amazing? Just to be without no agenda, no schedule, nothing weighing upon our minds or hearts. Just open, receptive, going with the flow of truth, which is our essential essence. Yes, I could stay there for longer, but, or should I say, and, we're getting rid of our buts for ands these days. Yeah. And, well, this morning, two things were occupying my mind as I was thinking about our time together. And this one won out. It's Phineas Parker's Quimby. It's a small little book about him and his life and his teaching. And Phineas was an amazingly interesting person. He was very down-to-earth, very modest man. He was a clockmaker. So you can imagine, he had great patience. Because working with clocks requires great patience, dealing with tiny little bits and pieces and so on. I know Ruthie would know that because her husband loved clocks and fiddled around with them, as we say. And if her friends had a clock that needed to be fixed, well, you know where they took the clock. It's an interesting occupation because you're dealing with an instrument that counts time. You would be amazed at how much you and I count time. Every time you look at the clock on your smartphone, I used to say watch or clock. I do all of it. I miss a watch if I don't have it. And it's quicker to look at your watch than to take out your phone, turn it on, and get the time. It is quicker. And nowadays, watches can almost make a cup of tea. I think it'll get there eventually. But I'm always a little bit disappointed when they bring out the new version and I can't make a cup of tea, especially for the amount of money they're charging for them. So, my dear ones, we'll see what he has to say, because the page that I opened up had to do with the master teacher, Jesus. And Phineas was a very interesting man. You would say he was a Christian, as you would say we are Christians. But as Ernest Holmes says, we are Christians, but we are more. And it's always fascinating to study self-realized people, individuals. Doesn't matter what age they stepped into, because at every age, every single person had an opportunity of gaining enlightenment. Because in my Father's house, there are many mansions. So all of us on the planet Earth today are at different and sundry levels of spiritual understanding. It's like this, I always say, and you know that. Energy, life is a circle. And sometimes we're very close to the center, and that's beautiful when that happens. And sometimes we're way out, beyond space. But we're going in and out and in and out and in and out because life is in a state of flux. And so we're all over the place. We zip in, we zip out, we zip around, and so on. So the question is, where are we right now? Where are you right now? As far as that kind of sense of who and what you are. And who and what you are has nothing to do with being a person. It has to do with your inner essence. Understanding that really what you are is an energy center. What you are is an energy center. What I am is an energy center. And that energy center is all the time changing, depending upon how we are thinking and feeling, because that's what decides what our energy looks like at any given time. What it is that we're thinking, what it is that we're feeling, that will determine our whole atmosphere. And so, my dear ones, this is what he has to say. He said, Jesus wanted to introduce the science he called Christ. Now remember, Christ is not a surname. Christ is a spiritual essence, an energy. And it existed long before Jesus came on the plane. Christ, which gave the lie to the old opinion of his day. He had no heaven or hell outside of man's consciousness. No happiness or misery except within. His God was in him, the kingdom within, and within each one of us is the Christ giving each individual as an offspring of the divine dominion, and that's capitalized. Christ within us gives us dominion. If this law could be understood, it would rid us of all evil beliefs that are bound in the natural or carnal man, in mortal mind. That mind of ours, let me tell you, it leads us a merry chase. It's not so merry sometimes either. And it's all in the mind. It's all about the mind. The beginning, the middle, and the end. It's all about your consciousness and what you're thinking and what you're feeling as a result. And what you're thinking and what you're feeling will push you into some kind of behavior. That's the way it works. That's the triune circular thing. Thinking, feeling, behavior. So anytime you're misbehaving yourself, and you'll know when you are, you'll say, what the hell has been going on in my mind to cause me feeling like this, and then for me to do a silly thing like that? I guess I just fell asleep. I just fell asleep. Don't berate yourself. Just say, you know, you're going to have to stay awake. And then you get whatever spiritual sleep you need in order to be awake when you need to be awake. And of course, the spiritual sleep will be all our spiritual practice. And if we neglect that, we're going to be low in that kind of energy. There's no doubt about it. The disciplined, the trained mind is far superior to the undisciplined, untrained mind, as Troward said, and many others too. I remember Ernest Holmes saying there's no such thing as an original idea in the universe. Somebody has had the idea before you did, no matter what. Maybe that's why he had no regard at all for proselytizing other people's writings, as somebody would say. But I would just say, haven't you noticed yourself sometimes? You study, and sometimes you don't know whether this is an original thought of your own or something you picked up along the way. It would be very, very, very hard to keep up with that. Really. And it's not that you're deliberately, using somebody else's or owning somebody else's words. And how can you own someone else's? How can you own a word? There are people trying to take over other people's names as far as computer science is concerned. I laugh at all of that. It's such nonsensical stuff. It's beyond anything I might think was intelligent. But Caesar's laws are Caesar's laws, and as Jesus says, you must render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's and to God the things that, if you don't want to get in trouble, that is. So dominion is everything, really. And the only place you and I can have dominion is in our minds, in our consciousness. And too many of us give that up too easily. We hand over our power to persons, places, and things far too easily. So that's what we have to pay attention to. And so he says, again, Dr. Quimby says, this is my theory, to put man in possession of a science that will destroy the false beliefs of the sick and teach man one living profession of his own true identity with life, free from error and free from disease. Therefore, to be free from death is to be alive in truth, for sin or error is death, and the science or wisdom is eternal life, and this is the Christ, as we see in John 8:36. Put on the mind that was in Christ Jesus, we're all told. You know, you and I have been told a lot, and you and I can quote a lot. But has it gone in here, and right in here, or has it gone in here, and out the window? I mean, how long are we going to have to hear this? You know, somebody once said to me, after a certain time when you come to the Science of Mind Church, you keep hearing the same thing over and over again. I said, you go to any spiritual center and you'll keep hearing the same thing. There's only the one thing to hear. And wonderful if you know you have it and you got it and you don't need it anymore. That's lovely. How is that showing up for you in your life? How are you doing? Share with us how you got there, that you don't need it, and maybe we can learn from you. And I don't mean it facetiously. And then we have the people who come and they get what they want or need because they've had a need, and off they go again. You don't see them until they have a need and a want again. None of this is at all unusual or wrong. People's needs are people's needs. There's no judgment about it. And then you have the ones who come and stay coming because they know for them they need a constant top up. And then there are the ones who come because they just love being in the company of lovely people. And God knows what many others come with their reasons, in their pockets. But all I know is you can't let up on this stuff at all. You really can't. It's like exercising. Have you noticed? You stop exercising for a week, and when you start up again, it's like you're starting from the beginning. Well, I think spiritual practice is not quite the same, but it takes a little bit to get back into it again. So that is why you and I are here today, and you're all looking in today. It's because we know it's a good practice. It's a good practice. It's a good way to spend our time. And if we're in the presence of other truth students, it's lovely company to be in. I know these days we're not able to enjoy that as much as we usually do, but that will come again. So the question is, though, really, what is all of this? What is the difference all of this makes in your life? Is it making a difference? Because it ought to be making a difference. If it's not making a difference, this is what we're doing. And we're digging a hole deeper as we go around. A hole deeper into unawareness. Everything that is good that we bring to our lives ought to change us for the good. ought to make the difference in that way, ought to help us to improve ourselves, don't you think? I think so. But, you know, if we're always running around, and if we always have no time for anything, and if we spend a lot of our time just keeping ourselves busy because we don't want to face this, that, or the other, or get on with what is calling us, we're not going to get this stuff the way we could. More than that, we're not going to be this stuff the way we can. And you know, you and I can have all the learning in the world, and you and I can quote up and down the yin-yang and so on. But if it's not within me, if it's just in the mind that I can recall from the mind, but if it's not showing up in the way I'm thinking, in the way I'm feeling, in the way I'm being, in the way I show up, in the way I'm doing, in the way I'm living, we're not getting it. Actually, the people who get it so very, very well are the ones who don't speak about it much at all. When I say speak about it, they don't quote this one, that one, and the other one. There comes a time when you don't want to know anymore what so-and-so says. You want to feel what so-and-so is. Does that make sense? And more is conveyed through our energy than anything else. Your words may say one thing, and your energy might be quite saying a whole different thing. And life is all about energy. And you and I are either diminishing energy or adding to energy. We're in flux all the time. We're either, just look at your own life. You can go through a day and your energy can be all over the place. You can get up out of bed feeling great. By the time you brush your teeth and walk out the door, the heaviness is upon you. For whatever reason, and we're not aware of it most of the time. I pay attention to that, and I'd say, well, you got up this morning and you felt great, and now it's 2 hours later. What the hey is going on? And then you think, oh, yeah, I've been thinking about that, and that's not what's going to help me boost my energy. So what do we do when that happens? You cast the burden upon the Christ within, and you go free of it. You give it up, you hand it over and out. I of myself do nothing. It is the power, it is the presence within me that does the work. The great words remind us. Well, if I of myself do nothing, who's doing it? So I'm happy to say, no, listen here. I showed up to be the conduit. I showed up to be the passage through, but you're the one that's supposed to be doing the work, not me, because if you're going to leave it up to me, it's going to be really a mess. You really don't want me making those kinds of decisions. I'm here to listen, to hear, to pass on. I'm not here to play God. And God being God just simply is God, doesn't have to play anything. See, that's the thing about it. The holiest people I have ever met were very down-to-earth people, but they had a beautiful energy around them. They never argued. They just had a smile on their face when others wanted to argue. They never argued. They didn't have to. What did they have to argue about? Because they knew what they knew. They shared. And they responded. They responded to questions. But there were no thou shalt nots that ever left their lips. They were present in a very sensing way, and weren't just listening with their ears. They were sensing the energy of the people around them. And they never berated. They'd ask questions. Never berated. Never brought down, the thunderous judgments of the righteous. They listened. And their energy was such, it was a healing energy. You always felt better for being in their presence. You never left their presence without being enriched in some way. And I would say to you, my dear ones, spend your time in the company of people who lift you up. Steer clear of the ones who might want to pull you down or anybody else down, because let me tell you, if in your company they're pulling somebody else down, they'll be in somebody else's company pulling you down. That's the way that works. That's an illness in and of itself. And it has to do with self-depreciation and lack of self-confidence and self-awareness. Because, if we knew what we can know, we wouldn't dare say a negative thing about anything or anyone. We would not dare to do that because of the boomerang effect. What goes out comes back and hits you right between the eyes. And I'll guarantee that when you hear somebody berating somebody else, maligning somebody else, speaking badly of somebody else, there's a crowd out there doing the very same thing about that person. That's why Scripture says, put a seal around your mouth. That mouth of ours gets us into so much trouble because it listened to the mind that was off-center. And as you know, and you know some of these people well, they're what I call mouth launchers. They just open their mouths and whatever comes out is launched. Now, once you launch something, there's no taking it back or stopping it. That thing is going to soar until it lands or blows up. Make your mouth your friend. Make your mouth everybody's friend. As Jesus said, what is the matter with you lot? You're killing everybody with the letter of the law. See, what comes in to us goes out from us. So he said, pay attention to what it is you are inletting. It's not what goes into your mouth that matters. So when people are saying that food is bad, there are food Nazis all around us. Have you noticed that? Oh my goodness, if you have a bit of ice cream or something, they're looking at you. How could you possibly eat that? Poison is what they're saying. And he said, it's not what goes into your mouth that matters, it's what comes out of your mouth that matters. If you're going to eat whatever it is you're going to eat, take it and bless it. Bless it. And say, this food is to my health and well-being. I bless everybody who brought it to my table. All of the myriads of workers. And I bless everybody into fullness and well-being. Just bless everything. It's an energy that has a changing agent within it. and do that. Now, I'm not saying, sit down and eat ice cream night, noon, and morning. I'm just saying if you give yourself a little treat once in a while, what's the point of eating it and feeling guilty about it? It's bound to give you a headache or something. You eat it with joy and thanksgiving. You give it with joy. Have you ever seen the movie Like Water for Chocolate? It's all about food. It's a wonderful movie. And it shows you in this movie that when meals are prepared with a rotten attitude, people come down with pains and food poisoning and all kinds of things. Whereas when it's prepared with love, everybody is delighting in it all and having a lovely time, you see. And that's true of anything in our day. Whatever it is you're doing, do it with a good heart. Or don't do it. Do it with a good heart. Again, God loves the cheerful giver. It's the energy of joy that puts the blessing into something. So, as my mother would say, when you give the trousers, don't cut the buttons out of them. What good is a pair of pants that has no buttons? It's the energy and the attitude with which we show up, with which we share our thoughts, with which we share our things, with which we share anything. That is the beautiful, amazing grace of life that can only uplift. But we're in such bad habits, aren't we? When somebody irritates us, we just open our mouths or whatever it is without too much thinking. And when that happens, again, I'm going to say to you, do not berate yourself, judge yourself, condemn yourself. Say, well, isn't that interesting? I blew that royally, but I'll pay attention more carefully next time. That's more good for you than to berate yourself. Berating yourself won't help you at all. It will hinder you. And remember, before you start to give yourself a good tongue lashing, what will prevent you to do that is to take a breath and remember, God dwells in me as me. Therefore, I am invited to honor myself, love myself, affirm myself, and be kind to myself. Because you're honoring the presence within you. You're recognizing the presence within you. And where the presence is, there's wholeness. And if you and I could simply remind ourselves of that throughout the day, we would be so good and holy. We would amaze everybody who knows us. They'd say, what's the matter with him? What's the matter with her? What got into him or her? But the only person you have to amaze is you. It's the only worthwhile person being amazing is you. You're the only one that matters in your life to begin with. You are your primary relationship. Don't ever forget that. And take care of that primary relationship you have with yourself, the great self. First, and if that's intact, all your relationships will be intact. But again, don't ever take anything I say with a pinch of salt. You can take it with a pinch of salt because it's up to you to test it out. You have to test this out. I mean, everything that anybody ever says to us, what we read, what we hear, and so on and so on, it all sounds terrific and great, but it's at the level of still being out there. It hasn't been imprinted on our souls. It hasn't been absorbed. It's only when something's absorbed that you have it, you got it, you know it. Above all else, I'm going to tell you the secret of life and the key of life is to, and especially when things are very, very tough, very, very challenging, do not get afraid and do not be anxious. It will keep you at the level of the ailment, whatever it is, be it mental, physical, spiritual, or whatever. Be not afraid. Remember those great lines, I go before you always. Come follow me, I will give you peace, I will give you rest. It's coming from within you. Follow me means trust me. Trust me. When there's absolutely nothing in your life to support you trusting. When all the evidence is to the contrary, trust. Trust. That's what the great ones had going for them. Absolute confidence in their source. Absolute trust in their source. That's not to say you're going to feel this or think that or the other. Very often I say to myself, and I say this to you very often, there are times I find myself saying, listen, Moira, whether you believe it or not, whether you think it or not, whether you feel it or not, the truth is, and then I'll state the truth. Because the truth is bigger than anything I'm going to feel or believe. It is an experience. The truth is an experience that wipes out any sense of lack of trust. There was a little prayer when I was a child. I know one of the holy cards I had said, one of the lines was, just trust him when to trust him is the only thing to do. When all else fails, trust. Be brave, be strong. Don't sink yourself in that energy of fear and anxiety and upsetness. Though 1,000 fall at my right-hand side and 10 at my left-hand side, I will stand in faith, unafraid, and be preserved. The mind plays havoc with us, especially at nighttime. You wake up in the night, you can't go back to sleep. When that happens and you can't go back to sleep, sit up, put on the light, get a book, listen to something. There's a wonderful channel called Calm. It's an app you can get. And it is all kinds of meditations and stories and affirmations and meditations and so on. You can play that to yourself. But don't wallow in feeling uncomfortable or discomforted or afraid or scared or anything like that. Spit it out. Because you can. Because God dwells in you as you, exactly as you, no matter what that human you is experiencing. That light, that power, that dominion is as powerful and bright and as strong as it was when it first appeared. Nothing can harm it, nothing can touch it, nothing. Even your baddest self cannot in any way chip away at it. It can never be destroyed because that's your essence. That is your essence, and you carry it with you always. In a way, you're just like an Ark of the Covenant. You're carrying that around with you. You're like a tabernacle. You're filled with that. So cheer up, everybody. When the going gets tough, what does the situation require? Yes. And there's nothing tougher than you lot, I can tell you. That's the truth, because we're independently minded, all of us. Unified in what we think and believe, but as the song says, I did it my way. There's no other way you could do it. There really isn't. So say with me right now, this is what I know. This is what I believe. This is what I cherish. And this is what I will always know. Right where I am. Exactly as I am. God is. And where God is, all is well. And so it is. And now, my dear ones, we're going to celebrate our fullness and our plenty in our little ceremony the way we always do. And it matters not if my daily bread, and I give thanks every single day of my life for my daily bread. I give thanks for my daily bread, my divine supply, and I know from it that there's enough and plenty, and from the plenty I can always share. That's what I know. Whether my daily bread is 12 crumbs or whether it's 12 loaves, it doesn't matter. It will be shared, because that's what bread is for. The metaphor for good in our lives, yes? So let's take our gift between our blessing hands and say, divine love consecrates my gift. It goes forth to heal, to bless, and to prosper. All those who give and all those who receive. I rejoice in the sharing of my good. And I release my gift with love. So it is. Well, my dear ones, we are going to let everybody, there's some of us who are working and we have to get back to work. So what we're going to do is, if you have to leave now, please feel free to leave and get on your way. And if any of you have a question you'd like to ask, then I'll be willing to endeavor to answer it. It's up to you. Or are we good to go? There's a hand going up.
I have a question, but I wanted to mention something. I went to North Dakota for my mother's memorial, and I was writing things in my journal, went to write, and a paper fell out, and it was a letter I had written to my mother, and then a letter from her to me. And it started out, "Dear Heart," from my mother. We had a beautiful ceremony, came back, I went to my first service, and the first thing you said was, "Good morning, dear hearts."
Your mommy is going to be looking in at you all the time, my dear. You'll be very aware of her presence. As I said, my mother still slaps me up the side of the head when I need it. So, you know, they're always going to be present to us, but not in a snoopy, nosy kind of way. But they'll always, but remember, the next life is all around and about us. They haven't gone away. They have changed their experience. They've advanced. Their experience has changed them. So they can see us, but we can't see them. And but you'll sense their presence. I mean, and you all know about Suzanne, my niece, who passed when she was very young, and she all over the place in the form of a butterfly. Butterfly, it's her, butterflies. She flutters by. I'll say, "Hi, Suzanne." And butterflies when there shouldn't be butterflies. It's not the season for butterflies and stuff like that. Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, we never lose. Remember this. Love once given remains. It's permanent if it is real love. It's permanent and it remains. You can never lose it. It's always with you. So they take the love that we have for them with them in their next experience of life, and their love remains with us in this experience still. So that's a lovely sharing, and I'm glad you've already had that kind of visitation from your mom. It's lovely.
She was an opera singer,
Ah,
and I had a dream last night. She was singing, and her voice just rang through me, and I woke up.
that's so very beautiful. Yeah. Do you remember the song?
No, but she was a soprano, and it was really high.
It was an aria, was
But
it?
depth to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great. You're getting all kinds of treats. Yeah. Anybody else got a question or want to share something? Yes, dear.
I just want to thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you.
I've been away through the pandemic, and I knew that I needed some words and some support.
Well, we're delighted you're here too, dear, and only come when it feels good to you to come. You know what I mean? And don't even think about the pandemic or that in the way you make your choices. Just do what you're drawn to do. Don't do what you're drawn not to do. But we love it when people, that's why we're not pushing people to come back in at all. You have to feel very safe. And don't do anything if you're not feeling safe. You want to feel safe. That's why we need our spiritual practice, so that we can know we're safe in spirit. And there's on the calendar that I get every year, one page is always repeated, which I've shared with you many times before. It's a Louise Hay calendar, and it's wherever I am, I'm always safe. Wherever I am always safe. I add to it. Wherever I am always safe. With whomever I am always safe. However I am always safe. I like to expand on things. Well, thank you, dear, for being here with us and bringing your lovely energy to share in the sanctuary. It's lovely to have you all. Yes, dear.
I work at Trader Joe's.
Uh-huh.
Through this whole time, I've been watching via Zoom. Every morning I go in at 5 a.m. and twice a week I would watch on Monday mornings and Friday mornings. And it just brought me through so much stress and uncertainty. And I tried to share the message that I heard from you with everyone that I knew.
Oh, how wonderful. That makes me feel good, because that's exactly what those messages were for. I mean, because, and I have to commend the 8 people who were here through thick and thin, through it all, so that we could make those programs to put out there. And this room always felt so full of energy. And people would say to me, how can you possibly get up there and talk to an empty room? So I'm not talking to an empty room. The room is full. So it's delightful to have you here, but come only when you're feeling up to it. Stay connected. And we are so indebted to all of those beautiful people of ours who have supported us faithfully, financially, even though they haven't been here. And that's what will always ensure the legacy of this work at this center, that it can keep going for generations to come too. And so when you don't get afraid and you don't worry and you trust and you give thanks beforehand for the divine supply, you give thanks beforehand for the good health, you give thanks beforehand for whatever it is, and you really mean it and you really feel it, you're going to be okay. You're covered. You're covered. And remember, we do have a prayer request we have prayer request leaflets that if you have a prayer request, you can write it down, drop it in the box in the foyer, or send it in. Call Doris or whatever whenever you have a prayer request. It's good to have all of those wonderful people, supporting you in prayer. We have a very strong prayer group, so don't forget that. It's there for you all. So you're ready to go out there into the world and splash your light all over the place? I think so. So have yourselves the best possible afternoon and tell yourself, best day ever, regardless of what you're feeling. Because today is always the best day ever. It's the only day we're sure of. So get out there, splash your light all over the place, and have a wonderful afternoon. And we'll see you next time, won't we? Take good care of yourselves. Take good care of yourselves, because you're the numero uno person to do that. So go out there now feeling good and spread the light. Spread the light. Now, I'm going to put my mask on and get on with it. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's always a joy to be with you all.